Movie summary, Godzilla -1, 2023.
Year 1945, near the conclusion of World War II, kamikaze pilot Koichi Shikishima lands his Mitsubishi S6M0 for repairs at the Japanese base on Odo Island Airfield. The mechanics are unable to identify any issues with the engine or the fuel lines of the plane.
The base is small, situated in a remote location, and features a barely adequate landing surface, which means Shikishima was desperate to land there. Lead mechanic Sasako Tachibana concludes that Shikishima is pretending to experience technical difficulties to flee from his responsibilities. As Shikishima sits near the water, he sees deep-sea fish on the surface. Godzilla assaults the watchtower and eliminates the soldiers stationed there. Tachibana instructs Shikishima to fire at the monster from his plane using the machine gun. Shikishima successfully enters his plane, positioning its guns directly at Godzilla.
But he becomes overwhelmed with panic and fails to take the shot. Godzilla assaults the base and its soldiers, causing chaos. The soldiers' small firearms are insufficient to halt Godzilla. Godzilla also demolishes Shikishima's plane, rendering him unconscious. When Shikishima awakens the next day, he observes his wrecked plane and finds Tachibana, the sole other survivor, who is angry with him for not firing at the monster.
In December 1945, Shikishima returns home.
He encounters his neighbor Sumiko Oda, who berates Shikishima for surviving considering his position as a suicide bomber. Sumiko informs to Shikishima that his parents died in the air raid, along with her children. The city was consumed by flames and is now in ruins. One day, Shikishima is at a marketplace when he hears a shopkeeper pursuing a thief. The thief hands a bundle to Shikishima, who opens it to find an infant girl. Shikishima encounters the thief, a woman named Noriko Oishi, who engages him in conversation, questioning why he did not simply leave the child behind. Shikishima discovers that Noriko is not the child's mother, rather, she took the child in at the request of the infant's dying mother. Shikishima reluctantly permits her to reside in his home. The following morning, Shikishima departs from his residence and meets Sumiko, who reproaches him for attempting to portray himself as a saint by taking in Noriko and the baby, named Akiko, asserting that she will not forgive him for neglecting his responsibilities. However, she provides her supply of rice to prepare food for Akiko after discovering that Noriko could not breastfeed the baby because she is not the biological mother. In March 1946, Shikishima secures a position aboard a minesweeper tasked with disposing of naval mines from World War II. The position offers a substantial salary due to the inherent risks, including the potential for fatality at any time.
The American magnetic mines are the most feared.
Japan lacks specialized equipment for handling the 60,000 mines and utilizes two converted tugboats for the task.
The wooden tugboats will not attract the magnetic mines. Noda works with Shikishima on the tugboats.
The tugboats transport a cutter which cut the tethers of the mines to the ocean floor.
When the mines float to the surface, they are exploded with a 13mm gun. Yoji serves as their captain.
One night, Shikishima had a bad dream. He dreamed Godzilla's attack on Odo Island Airfield.
When he woke up, Noriko gave him a drink of water. Gradually, Shikishima accumulates sufficient funds to reconstruct his residence.
In July 1946, Godzilla is mutated and strengthened by the United States nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll during Operation Crossroads. It sinks the submarine USS Redfish, which photographed the creature before being attacked and sunk. The sections of the submarine that came in contact with the creature exhibited signs of radioactivity, and destroy several other ships including the Pacific Fleet destroyer USS Lancaster en route to Japan. A year later, in 1947, Shikishima has become good friends with his team, and has seemingly mended his relationship with Sumiko, who helps look after Akiko when Shikishima goes to work. Noriko reveals that she is taking a job in Ginza in order to help generate additional income. In May 1947, Shikishima and his team are dispatched to hinder Godzilla while awaiting the arrival of the heavy cruiser Takao, sent from the docks in Singapore, with the expectation that it will overpower the monster.
Seeing Godzilla emerge and assault another vessel, the crew attempts to escape as Godzilla chases them. They detonate a mine in an effort to halt it, but Godzilla remains unaffected by the explosion.
Their second mine is released and is caught in Godzilla's mouth, but the line ends up getting severed, preventing them from detonating it. Shikishima devises a plan to utilize the boat's machine gun to shoot at the mine, triggering its detonation, which damages Godzilla's face and incapacitates it.
However, Godzilla rapidly regenerates, completely healing itself in merely a few seconds.
The Takao then arrives and opens fire on Godzilla, but its artillery is ineffective and merely exacerbates the creature's fury.
Godzilla launches an assault on the Takao before submerging underwater.
A brilliant light starts to emerge beneath the ship, followed by an energy blast that annihilates the Takao in a tremendous explosion. After returning to Tokyo, Shikishima experiences a mental breakdown and discloses to Noriko the truth about his past as a kamikaze pilot in Godzilla's assault on Oto Island airfield, despite the gag order. He wonders whether he truly died on the island, and everything that has happened since then is just an illusion, but Noriko attempts to comfort him, confirming that he is indeed alive. Several days later, Godzilla makes landfall and starts assaulting Ginza. Shikishima hears an alert on the radio regarding the attack, and realizes that Noriko is in danger. Noriko witnesses Godzilla's assault while riding on the train to work, before Godzilla bites down on the train and begins pulling it into the air.
Noriko tries to hold on but leaps into the water to escape being killed while Godzilla continues its rampage, demolishing buildings and trampling fleeing civilians beneath its feet. Shikishima successfully locates Noriko, and the two make an effort to escape before Godzilla is engaged by Type 4 cheetah tanks.
Although the attack is initially perceived as successful, Godzilla swiftly reappears unharmed before it begins charging its atomic breath, its dorsal plates beginning to glow blue and extend out of its back and tail.
Shikishima remarks that it's the same as when Godzilla attacked the Takao. Godzilla's dorsal spines retract as it unleashes its atomic breath toward the tanks, resulting in a massive explosion that swiftly disseminates throughout the city.
Shikishima is frozen in place as the explosion closes in, but Noriko manages to push him to safety, though she ends up caught in the blast. Shikishima is horrified by the scene of the city turned to ruins and is unable to locate Noriko, fearing she is dead. Godzilla lets out a roar into the sky before departing, while Shikishima collapses to his knees, crying out in despair.
Over 30,000 individuals lost their lives in the attack. Over 20,000 homes and buildings were destroyed in the attack.
Shikishima vows to get revenge against the monster.
Godzilla is expected to re-emerge in a few days, but the government is reluctant to take further measures to prevent a second attack.
Kenji Noda assembles a group of private citizen soldiers to showcase his strategy to defeat Godzilla. By encircling it with Freon tanks and rupturing them, they would decrease the water's buoyancy and rapidly plunge Godzilla to a depth of more than 1,500 meters, causing it to be crushed by the sudden pressure change.
As a contingency plan should the initial strategy fail, they intended to utilize balloons to quickly elevate Godzilla to the surface, killing the creature through explosive decompression.
Noda successfully seized control of 4 disarmed destroyer ships to implement his plan, the Yukikase, Hibiki, Ukase, and a Matsu-class vessel. Additionally, to attract Godzilla into the trap, Noda obtained a damaged Kyushu J-7W Shinden fighter plane for Shikishima to fly, but required a mechanic in order to repair it. Shikishima subsequently started searching for Tachibana, believing there was no one more suitable for the role.
After multiple unsuccessful attempts to find Tachibana, Shikishima dispatches several letters addressed to him.
Sometime later, he is attacked and knocked unconscious by an unknown individual. Upon waking, Shikishima finds that the individual is Tachibana, who angrily confronts him as to why the letters blamed him for the attack on Oto Island.
Shikishima apologizes, stating that he was aware Tachibana would seek him out if he provoked his anger.
He attempts to persuade Tachibana to assist him, but he initially declines until Shikishima discloses his intention to pilot his explosive-laden plane into Godzilla's mouth, knowing that the creature was more vulnerable on the inside, and claims that the war wasn't concluded for either of them yet. Tachibana subsequently agrees to repair the Shinden, equipping it with the explosives requested by Shikishima. While going over how to arm the explosives, Shikishima's hands start to tremble, as he asserts that a part of him still desires to live. Later, while he is home with Akiko, she shows Shikishima a drawing she made of her, him, and Noriko during her stay with Sumiko. Shortly thereafter, she starts to cry, and Shikishima embraces her, assuring her that he would not abandon her. The following morning, as Akiko remained asleep, Shikishima left an envelope with her, containing money and a note for Sumiko, requesting her to look after Akiko before he departed to commence the operation. Godzilla ultimately re-emerges, having been lured by recordings of its roar, but arrives sooner than anticipated and briefly makes landfall, demolishing a small village.
Shikishima arrives soon after and lures Godzilla back to the water, successfully capturing it in the trap. Godzilla unleashes its atomic breath at two unmanned destroyers serving as decoys, rendering it incapable of using the attack again until it completes regeneration. The two remaining destroyers manage to encase Godzilla in the Freon tanks, which are then detonated, causing Godzilla to be rapidly dragged down over 1,500 meters underwater and crushed by the water pressure. Godzilla manages to survive, and the contingency plan is activated, inflating the balloons to elevate the monster back to the surface. However, its ascent is abruptly stopped at the 800-meter mark, as Godzilla successfully bit through the balloons and released itself. Hibiki and Yukikase try to lift Godzilla but are unsuccessful due to insufficient engine power. Shiro Mizushima, who had previously been abandoned, arrives with a fleet of tugboats, and their collective power successfully brings Godzilla back to the surface. Heavily injured and furious, Godzilla prepares to unleash its atomic breath again. Shikishima arrives in his plane once more and flies directly at Godzilla's head, crashing into the monster's mouth and resulting in an explosion. The explosion destroys Godzilla's head, resulting in the energy from its atomic breath disintegrating its body, causing it to fall apart in the water. Initially believing Shikishima is dead, everyone is overjoyed to see him parachuting down from the sky. A short flashback shows Tachibana demonstrating to Shikishima that the Shinden plane was equipped with an ejector seat, instructing him how to use it and urging him to keep living. Upon returning to land, Shikishima is reunited with Akiko and Sumiko, who presents him a telegram she had received earlier that day. He brings Akiko with him to the hospital where he finds Noriko, injured and suffering from an unknown type of radiation sickness, but alive, having survived the attack on Ginza. She inquires if his war has finally concluded, to which he affirms with a nod, breaking down in joy as he embraces her, exposing a marking on her neck that resembles Godzilla's dorsal plates. A piece of Godzilla's flesh sinks, while sinking it expands, starting to regenerate.